So, part three of this series on relationships, doing it all in one morning. So, I remember what I've said. At least I hope I'll remember what I've said and what I need to say. So, we could see the seventh house as our solitude, as our eventual solitude. The seventh house, others. That's what we project onto others, that which we need to find ourselves. And we don't know we're doing it when we're young, because there's so much psyche to unfold. It's a lifetime journey, it's a lifetime adventure. And we don't know what it is when we're younger. We don't know what we're doing when we're younger, but we probably do what we have to do. And we probably end up with the people we need to be with. And we don't know why. We just have to do what we're prompted to do. That's the way to live life. Do what we're prompted to do. Get rid of that towel. That's not very becoming, is it? um, Solitude, yeah. And the relationship, it might be huge. It often is huge. It's like Venus or Mars has drawn us in, but it's our sun or our moon. A large part of it is that it's sat there in the other person, so to speak, being held by the other person until we're ready to fully unfold it ourselves. The sun is the main planet. It's a lifetime's journey unfolding what that is. So a lot of our own power, a lot of who we could be, gets tied up in the other person, and it gives us a sense of completion, of wholeness. And there's the joy in it. And of course, there's genuine stuff as well. There's genuine connection, there's family, and all the rest of it. But really, we're talking about the deeper psychological implications here. And so we come out, and that can be huge, that can be really difficult, but we learn to be with ourselves. We learn to be with that seventh house. For me, my seventh house cusp is Pisces. And my longest relationship was with someone who had moon in Pisces. So I was drawn into that. And I learnt about Pisces during the course of the relationship. I learnt not to be so sort of male with my Mars in Capricorn, yeah, sort of male and driven. I have a plan and I'm going to make this happen because I've got a strong will and I can do all this. And well, those sorts of qualities, they're needed. Yeah, they make stuff happen, they build civilizations, but it needs to be in the service of something bigger. So I learnt just to trust. That's Pisces. It's not my will, but thine. Mars rules Aries, the first sign. It's naive. It's all me and my will. Pisces, the final sign. It's thy will, God's will. And so I learnt to just sometimes leave things alone, get a sense of it. Actually, leave that alone and it will unfold in its own way. Or don't say that to that person because that's what will happen. Yeah, because they like that. Just sit back, listen, consider, reflect more deeply, listen to myself. So I started learning all those sorts of qualities, as well as allowing the other person to be the soulful one, I see. So it's a mixture of me learning, but also me projecting. It's this kind of mixture. And really, we often are attracted to people who have what's missing in us. And you can look at that elementally. That's maybe the best way. If you're lacking in fire, well, then maybe you'll be drawn to someone with fire. And they will do it for you and therefore make you feel whole. But you also learn how to do it yourself. Yeah. Make a point of that. If the other person you're with is good in a particular area that you're not good at, fire is like imagination, possibility, excitement, travel, imagination, all those things, intuition, even. Yeah. Make sure you're doing that yourself. Don't just let the other person do it. Because they are there for you to learn from. And if you do really want to learn from that, and they don't, you may need to leave in the end so that you can complete that process yourself, because it can be an energetic thing. The other person holds you down energetically, because they want things to be like that. Nothing needs to be said, but it holds you in, it traps you. A lot of people, they're very happy like that for their whole lives. It's like they're two half people. The other person completes them. That's why we use the expression the other half. And they're happy like that. And no judgment. There's no law saying you have to become whole. But some of us do. Probably most of us listening to this video. Well, you do. Well, we all have to eventually, sooner or later. Yeah, there is that grit in the oyster in us. And we can smooth it over. And some people are very good at smoothing it over. Now, here's another thing. You learn not to do the things that don't feel right. Often through suffering, often through being bitten. This is a Scorpio lesson, trusting the intuition. This is what Scorpios are good at, or become good at, is they listen to their body. They listen to their instincts. And you need to listen to that with relationships. Because on the one hand, there's the sexual drive, there's the emotional needs. Yeah. There's the, not wanting to be left on the shelf. All that sort of thing can pull us towards someone. And our intuition is saying no. And it's our intuition that we need to learn to listen to. 20 years and 3 kids later, there was always that thing you weren't listening to. You thought, well, I can make this work. If I try hard enough and long enough, that bit will go away, but it never goes away because it was something you didn't listen to in the first place. And you might try and minimize it, but it will come back and bite you. Come back from the underworld and seize you, destroy you. But then you can be reborn. That bit of you which you had put aside, you had compromised. That's the thing about relationships, is they can be compromised, and they need to be the opposite. They need to be about truthfulness, honesty. And that can be the wonderful thing about them, is actually you've got someone close to you who is completely different to you. The more you get to know someone, the more you realize just how interesting, how strange, how complex, and how completely different to you they are. In a way, they're not your soulmate. Well, maybe they are, but that's often what we mean by soulmates, is the projections meet. But they are completely different. And yet you communicate across that divide. You are truthful across that divide, and they are truthful back. But you both see the truth in different ways. How marvelous, how wonderful, how deep, how transformative. Why wouldn't you want to be with someone like that? And it's never going to be easy. You have to grapple. Force yourself to be honest sometimes. You don't want to own up to it. But it's always the best way. It's always best to be truthful, always. Because then you are living your life. You're standing in alignment with who you are. You can't be pushed over. So I suspect that's very rare in relationships, to find that level of honesty, because it's rare to find people with that level of honesty about themselves. And sometimes we are, and sometimes we're not. We come and go. We're human. We fall over, and then we stand up again. But then, if you do leave, you need to learn to be with yourself. Bring that 7th house in. Me, I've been on my own for 7 years now. I've been on this Pisces journey of being with myself. And I've been told in a dream, you're not going to be with anyone else until you learn to be happy on your own. And there was an animal with me in the dream that was bounding, a cheetah. It was on a leash. It was bounding to be free. So it's that animal nature, being free and whole and content. Yeah. And if spirit sends someone your way and they're right, you go with it. And if they don't, you don't. You trust it. You trust it if it's not happening. That's another thing with the relationships. Trust it if they're not happening, as well as if they're happening. There is something for you to learn. Someone to be with. It may just be a joy. All these different things. Okay, we've come to the end of that one, and I didn't even talk about Mars, Venus. Maybe I will do another one on that subject.